about, and I will let Jackson take the first album.
Okay, sure. I'll introduce this. Uh, like yesterday, basically, from where we're recording
Yeah.
this. The new Vince Staples project came out. It's called FM. It's basically like a mini album is how I would describe it. We're getting a full new Vince Staples album next year, and this is sort of a 22-minute like 10 song like 12 13 songs with some interludes project of basically much more kind of traditional rap output from Vince Staples, sort of pivoting from the futuristic bleep bloops of Big Fish theory and doing a album that is inspired by and kind of uses the aesthetic of West Coast hip hop radio, using Big Boy from Big Boy in the Neighborhood to do all of these little radio interludes that sort of stitch the songs of the album together. And the album also has two interludes that are like little 30-second promos of songs by Earl Sweatshirt and Tyga that are both like unreleased songs that we've never heard before, that are just like snippets that get played as if they're on the radio. Okay, we'll get this out of the way just because this is kind of separate from FM slightly. Holy shit, is the new Earl Sweatshirt. It's 20 seconds and it's the best rap song of the year. Because that goes to show how much I am, one, fiending for new Earl, but two, also Earl on Kenny Beats production is something I need now. I need it immediately. Because it sounds really good in that snippet, buddy.
Like, I mentioned this in the chat because I just listened to this before the podcast because it was the one album I hadn't listened to yet. Hearing that interlude, it's like, I'm not as into I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside as much as other people are. Like, I don't even like Doris that much either. Like, I don't think Earl's put out like an album that I really love yet. I think it's like, I think actually we'll probably get into this with Vince. I think it's like a very similar problem with Vince where he's put out albums that I like but I don't love. Like, I feel like he's so close to reaching his peak, but he's not there yet. But I feel like Earl is like, oh, Earl might be there. Like, because this interlude is it's like, fuck you, Earl. Like, fuck you for putting this on this album, because
he's so good at rapping.
Because I've been like patiently waiting for a new Earl. I'm like, I've been like, okay, I can wait. Like, I'm not as, like, I can wait a little bit. But this is like, ugh, I need this new Earl album. I know we're not gonna get it for a while probably because of like personal events and whatnot. But like, I need this album. It's so good. But to transition back into Vince, unless anyone else had any more thoughts about Earl Sweatshirt and the audacity of this man's to do this to us on this random ass Vince Staples mini album, is that
the
like
nerve. I was just looking it up. Like, the sidebar on the Genius page for the lyrics mentions this is his first verse period since the Really Doe verse, which, like,
damn,
I was gonna
have
say
those back over 2 years. Is like...
No, but also the fact that these are the only two verses we've heard in the last 2 years implies that he's been writing verses like this for 2 years. So there are some songs stored up here. He's not just dropping whatever he's made in the last month, a la Kanye West. There's some Earl verses that he's like, I'm saving this for the album. And these are songs we're getting as features. He gave every word of that Really Vogue verse, and he's like, I don't need this on my album. I can give this to Danny Brown. Like, can you imagine that? Like, that verse is one of my favorite rap verses of the last, like, 5 years. When he has the line about left-handed shooter, Cal Lowry, the pump, I'm at your house, like, why you got your couch on my chucks, motherfucker. Jesus Christ.
Like, and even just for this interlude, like, we can tell that he's like progressed, like, he's progressed like that far since the Really Doe verse. Like, his voice, he sounds so much more confident. Better. He sounds like a better rapper. Like, lyrically, he's always been there. But like,
the fire in his voice is kind of different. He's less kind of monotone and sort of he's really getting into sort of just a more kind of aggressive flow, and I think it just suits him really well. Anyways, we'll move on. We're literally in like minute 4 of discussion about a 20-second snippet. It is not even long enough to like loop it.
But it's that good. It's that good, guys. We're not kidding. It's that good. But I was gonna say transition into Vince, and that like I wanted to keep mentioning my comment where I feel like Vince Staples and Earl Sweatshirt, like, both these guys are really fucking young. Like, they're both like not even 23, 24. I don't even think. Like, I gotta look this up, but they're both like.
Vince Staples is way younger than you think he is. This is true.
Yeah, he's like 23, 24.
Vince Staples. He's only he's 25 apparently.
Okay.
So it's still like both Vince and Earl, like they're both still like really fucking young. Like they're
Yeah,
not
he's
even
25 and he's been around for 7 years. Like,
because
Yeah,
I mean I
exactly.
listened to Vince like when like in 2011, like when I got into Odd Future and shit, because he was on Earl's
Yeah.
mixtape. But like I feel like the same problem I have with Vince is the same problem I have with Earl, in that like I feel like Vince, he's made some good albums, but he hasn't made like that great album yet. And I feel like this album is actually like the closest he's come to making that great album. Like there is a fire. Like here's the thing, I like Big Fish Theory. I think it's a good album, but I do think like it has some weak tracks. And I think it has some weak structures. But I feel like this album, it's just so concise, and it's so, the concept is like just, it's like, oh, it's like a radio station thing. Like that really works for Vince, and the beats are great, and Vince sounds great on them, and the features for the most part are good. Excluding the Tyga thing. Why would you have Tyga on your album in 2018?
No,
I'm sorry. Why?
It slaps. It's really good. And for me, I think I appreciate why it's on there, and I understand why it's on there, which is that I think a lot of my enjoyment in this album comes from listening to a lot of like hip hop radio in LA, like driving around growing up. Having a Tyga song come in the middle of this album, even though I don't like love Tyga or basically any of his songs, it just spiritually feels right to have him have Big Boy be like new Tyga music coming up, and have it be like exactly
it makes sense on the
yeah,
album.
it fits the concept.
It fits the album, but it's just like personally, it's like
also Tyga. I mean, like he's still Tyga, but like he's in the last like couple of months, his musical output has been significantly less embarrassing and significantly closer to like his Rack City peak, which is not a very high peak, but he's at the top of his Tyga game right now. So I appreciate Vince Staples showing him some love. But anyways, Vince Staples, this album is good. I like it a lot. I don't love it. I agree with you. I'm not so much someone who's like, I don't think he's made a really solid. I think he's made solid, consistent, like good albums. There's something about his albums that never really quite add up to being like a great full experience. There's something I think my sort of, I don't know if this makes sense, but I sort of feel like a lot of his albums like are full with enough good songs to be a good album, but the good songs don't reinforce each other in a way that makes it feel like, yeah, this is like a whole thing that like I love this collective, the collective idea of what this whole album is. And I think this album is like, it's obviously like this is basically a holdover to give us new Vince Staples music in a short concentrated burst, and have some songs that I think are going to be very popular for Vince, and then sort of kind of use that forward momentum to do what I'm really, really hoping is that his new album is something he's been working on sort of since Big Fish Theory, and is hopefully going to be sort of a synthesis between what FM is and what Big Fish Theory is. Because I think that, like, I was really happy to hear Earl on some very, like, current, exciting, like with the times of where rap is right now beats, because I think he sounds really good on, like, 2018 rap beats. And also, everyone sounds good on Kenny Beats production, because Kenny Beats is, like, the best producer in hip-hop right now, if we're being real. But I think that, like, as much as I do like that this album is like a very like sort of commercial, more standard Vince album, I think it has little flavors here and there. I think this album sounds like a little more futuristic version of kind of the modern sort of like trap sounds that are like popular right now.
Kind of. I was gonna say that this album, it feels a lot like I think like Alphonse, friend of the podcast, Alphonse, he posted I think like Shine Gold Chain 1 on his Twitter the other day. And
it reminds me a lot of that.
It's like a more refined, like early grimy Vince, I think, and that's what I really like that's what I really like from my first listen. That's what I really like about this album, is that like, oh, it's just like it's a really refined like early grimy Vince, and like it works really well. Yeah, exactly, he's back on his bullshit.
So I'm gonna stop you there, because at least early grimy Vince had a lot of really interesting production behind him. I'm not hearing anything on FM that actually makes me like the beats are kind of throwaway and placeholder. I feel
I don't
there's
blame
not
you.
really, yeah.
I don't.
There's
I
not
get
really
that.
anything. Yeah.
I
And to
disagree personally, but that's me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and to
I'm
go
gonna have to-
further with, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but like to go
That's okay.
further with Jackson's argument, I think Vince is kind of just generally very inconsistent in like all of his like project to project, even track to track, because he does this thing where he goes from a really really good EP or mini album, and then he went to Summertime with Six, and that was just a bloated. It has some really good tracks on it, but it was just so bloated and just such a slog to get through, especially towards the end. Then he follows it up with kind of a garbage EP. I didn't like Prima Donna at all. Then Big Fish Theory, which again, on a track-by-track basis, you just kind of have to really break down and get to the bottom of. And then with FM, I feel like it's just back to just kind of this throwaway, like, garbage project again that I'm just not at all excited about.
Sorry.
I don't hate it, but it is lukewarm for me. I don't. Here's what I'll say about it. These are the two like major flaws in this for me is, and maybe this is just a California thing, but like, why is this coming out in November? This is not the right vibe for this time of year.
Yeah,
like
it should have been. I mean, like there's the whole thing in the beginning, the like line the big boy says, the idea that in the hood it always feels like summer, and sort of the idea of dropping us. But it's just it's like I live in Michigan. Like this is not the time for this album to be coming out for me in my life personally. But like I would have been a better summer album. I agree.
Yeah, I would have loved this.
I will definitely be listening to this more when I'm back in California in 3 weeks. I will say that.
Which makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I would have loved this more if it came out in like mid-June, right as like Daytona was sort of starting to fall out of rotation, or maybe like early July. And also if it was like 15 minutes long, I think this just should have been an EP. Like
It basically
it's weird to say
It
that like
basically
22
is.
minutes
Yeah.
and 15 minutes is a big difference, but I don't know. I feel like if this was like a hard and fast
I think
12-minute 4 or 5 songs in and out, then I would have been so much more on board with it. But as much as I respect the concept on a conceptual level, and it's cool that I was realizing as we were talking about it, like it does the songs for the deaf thing where it's like it replicates the feel of basically just like flicking through radio stations as you're hearing it.
But
And
is that really a concept that you really want to emulate on an album? Because I feel like one of the big things that weigh down this record is the amount of features on it, which just is so blurry and all over the place that I just can't really keep up with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's probably they're
weird
not
to say.
listed that makes it kind of confusing. But I think that might be like a creative choice of that he was going for, sort of the idea that you don't going back to the idea that it's replicating a radio station. Maybe the idea being that like you don't really get to see like who's on this song, who produced that song, like what are the line, the idea of experiencing music in this sort of passive way where some radio host is being like, all right, up next we got this thing, and you're like, whoa, what is that, or who's doing that part. I definitely would have liked to like see the features, just because it took me a second to figure out, oh, that's Kamaya on that song, that's Buddy on that song.
I'm not trying to like shit on the concept, because I do think it's a really cool concept. I just have a lot of problem with the execution of it, because I feel
that's totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. It just didn't really hit the spot for me personally.
I think Outside is the best song on here, though. Outside is really good. I like that. I think that one starts the album on like a very, very solid note. I think there's probably just like one or two that could like. I think part of it is that it's just weird. Yeah, it is weirdly paced for something so short, which seems impossible. But the way that like No Bleedin' is like an all right song, and then it goes into the Taiga interlude, and then a skit, and then Tweaking, which is just not a good song, means that basically when I listen to this album, it's very good, but I kind of want to turn it off right around Fun, like right after Fun.
Yeah.
And that's weird that like, an album loses steam that's 22 minutes long.
I know. That's the strange thing about this. I would have loved. It was like
it's so hard because it's like Vince Staples is clearly like such a compelling artist. Like he clearly like is someone who has like a unique point of view, like good lyrics, like if not always perfect, a definitely unique ear for beats and production, and definitely has like ambitious ideas of kind of what he wants his music to sound like a lot of the time, but like just doesn't. I really just want to get like the right like executive producer to be like, all right, Vince, here's what we're gonna do with this album. We're gonna do this and then this and this, because I just feel like if someone was masterminding it, I just feel like there could be an incredible Vince Staples album, like a Vince Staples album that I want to play for like ever.
Yeah. In regards to FM, like I think there's like 3 or 4 really good / great songs on this, and personally for this project I would have preferred to just have them like just those 4 songs presented cut and dry prima donna style. That would have been my preference.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. I think. Do you want to cover anything else, Matty?
I mean, I just want to say like last thing, like 2 last things. I was not to backtrack like too much because I wanted to say this after Dylan mentioned it. If Summertime '06 was just Disc 1, it would be a fucking great album. Like Disc 1 on its own is fucking great, and I think it would have been like cut and dry. Like this would have been a great ending. But then Disc 2 happens. There's good songs on Disc 2, but overall it's just like Disc 2 does not need to exist. Like it just doesn't need to exist. Like like from the beginning to the end, Disc 1 works as a full complete album. And
it really does. Like and most of the like essential songs on the album are on Disc 1. There are good songs on Disc 2, but there are very few that are like
it's like half of it is good. Like it's like it gets into more like ballad shit, and it's like it doesn't like more into the R&B leaning stuff that I just don't think Vince. He's just not comfortable in that kind of sound.
Yeah, that was also okay.
And then last thing, like I said, I'm probably. I mean, maybe because I only listened to it once. I feel like I'm hotter on this than most of you guys, which is kind of weird, but nonetheless.
I also only listened to it once, so
I mean, I'll give it more listens. Like I said, I only listen. I mean, like I said, I was like, oh, this is like really solid.
I think you and I are in the same place. I think this album is very good. I personally like the production. I think obviously Kenny Beats' sort of production style is like very typical. Like it sounds like what a lot of other rap sounds like. But I think the thing that sets him apart is, and he was for those of you who maybe like haven't like heard the memo on him, because he sort of just kind of came out of nowhere this year. Basically, he was one half of like this EDM DJ duo, and he's like, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore. And he quit, and he sort of committed himself to like, I want to produce rap music, I want to be a rap producer, and like put himself in a studio and just like sort of taught himself top to bottom every single aspect of producing a record, from like playing all the instruments to like he basically wanted to craft a skill set where he could be in a room with an artist and do anything. And then he sort of developed this mantra where that he would only work with people that he thought would be creative, exciting projects, and that he would only basically make songs with people like that sit down in a booth and like put these songs together. And in the last year has had a like truly unfathomably prolific output. He produced like half of an album for Freddie Gibbs. He produced more than half of an album for Rico Nasty. He's done 2 entire albums with one entire album with Key that came out earlier this year. There's another collab album with Key coming out later this year. He did almost all the beats on FM. And
don't forget he did the Zach Fox Square Up song.
Oh yeah, he did the Zach Fox song where Zach Fox does a Rico Nasty flow, and it's the hardest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That song is legitimately amazing. No, yeah, but like the thing, basically what I was getting to is that like his songs, as opposed to like comparing him to like other top like trap producers like 808 Mafia, Metro Boomin, and whatever, like he gets in the studio with artists and like really like works with them on like the song concept, and like really does like collaborations that feel more like fully realized than a lot of producers that are clearly just like mass producing beats and then emailing them out to all the rappers and like trying to get like beat placements. Like he approaches it in a much more like kind of musically inclined way, and I think it definitely does show. I think like as far as like rap music that could be played in there. This is his most commercially accessible project, but I don't think that is because it makes it, I don't think it's like more artistically shallow than some of the other stuff. I think a lot of the songs on here are like feel like good Vince Staples songs, but also feel like they're gonna get played on the radio more than anything on Big Fish there ever was. And I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with that per se.